Eve and Adam and John, me being Adam. Today we're going to make my almost healthy peanut butter oatmeal cookies. Now you're thinking, almost healthy, what do I mean by almost healthy? Well, basically I designed this recipe, I took the original and then modified it. So I removed all the butter, so there's no butter in these cookies, and I replaced it with peanut butter. So to start with, the first thing you need to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So the first ingredient is the oatmeal. In this case we need 1 cup of oats, half a cup of flour. In this case, since there's all that oats, I just use the regular plain flour. After that, it's just a little bit of salt, just a little bit, maybe 1/8 teaspoon if you really want to measure it out, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So it's half a cup of brown sugar. Nice thing about brown sugar is you get to pack it down in. You basically want to get as much of a half a cup of brown sugar as you can get. Next is half a cup of white sugar. This, of course, doesn't need to be packed down because it flows by itself.
It's granular.
And then after you added all the dry ingredients, you just mix it up a bit. Pat it down, mix it up. So it requires 1 1/4 cups of peanut butter. I usually like to start mixing this in a bit, mix the peanut butter in with the dry ingredients. It just helps get the peanut butter mixed throughout so that, again, you don't end up with part of your batter being extra peanut buttery and another part being a little low on peanut butter. So you don't really need to get it like thoroughly mixed up, just enough so that you see oats mixed in with peanut butter. And the next I like to add is the eggs. The recipe calls for 2 eggs. 1 lovely egg. Second lovely egg. You also need a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And finally 2 tablespoons of milk or milk-like substance. I use soy milk. We start mixing this up. Now, this is a pretty thick batter that I'm making. It's not like waffle batter or pancake batter that's kind of still clearly a fluid. This is definitely sort of a hybrid between a solid and a fluid. So you really want to mash it all together. Make it so that you don't see any white powder from flour or sugar. Alright, once that looks nice and mixed up, you can start dolloping it out onto a cookie sheet or a jelly roll sheet, any sort of flat sheet that you happen to have handy. So I like to put just a tiny bit of soy oil on the plate, pan, not really that much. You probably don't actually need it, but that's what I do. And then you dollop out about a tablespoon's worth of cookie batter. Just right on there. Now normally with normal cookie batter, you just put a big glop on and it'll, because there's so much fat in it, it'll melt out and spread. But with this cookie batter, since I've replaced all the butter with peanut butter, it doesn't spread out as well. So whatever shape you want it to be, you kind of have to make it that shape ahead of time. So I usually like to flatten it out a bit so it's more of the traditional cookie shape. Once you get as many cookies as you feel comfortable putting on your sheet, then you just toss it in the oven. And let it cook for about 15 minutes. Set my timer and let it go. Now, while that's baking, if you're lucky enough to have a separate pan like I do, you can start putting, scooping out more cookies. So again, just about a tablespoon. I mean, I guess you could do bigger cookies, but I don't know how big you can get with these before it starts to be an unstable cookie. So it looks like I'm putting about 10-ish cookies on a plate, metal tray, so that means There's 10 in there, 10 here, so that's 20. There's probably maybe 5 more cookies worth of batter, so it looks like this recipe makes about 2 dozen cookies, depending on exactly how big you decide to make the cookies. Now, since I'm going to put more cookies in, I don't want to turn the heat off yet. Bring them out. See, they rose a little bit from where they were flattened, but they didn't really spread out that much. And then, now you're going to want to let these cool down a little bit before you take the cookies off the sheet. Just because they're still kind of moist from the steam, and they need to cool down a little, let some of the steam out. So now that these cooled off enough that I feel confident in touching them, I can move them over to a plate, let them, one, cool a little longer, so that they're still a little mushy because they're hot. I'm going to put that one to the side for now. And also the free of the pan, because you're going to need it for the rest of the batter. That is how you make my almost healthy peanut butter oatmeal cookies. Very delicious. You should really give it a try sometime. So that's, I guess, all for this episode. Thank you for joining us on Eat In, and I hope to see you next time.